man. You tell me say, he ma beat it and say, no man, she too good man. Me have to hire her man. She have to be in her next show. Definitely have put her in her next show. What? Buy her OnlyFans or takes up her Instagram and say, yo, me just do a quick round and me just want to say, yo, your performance. Like, what was that conversation? Yeah. Alright. Today we are what? Men writing women. Sam Levinson. Okay. Do I know who Sam Levinson is? No, I do not. Will she tell us? Oh yeah, me say by girls on film, by girl on film. Yeah, that's the channel. What me that say? Yeah, me no know who. She hopefully in the video she tell you who. Yeah, me think she gonna tell you who. Yeah, but must start the video, right? Yeah, start the video. We start the video.
This is a true statement. Sam Levinson was once...
Wait. Before we start, the eyebrows. Only thing about the eyebrows. Me already know like it's a good YouTuber. This what me reacted on a video them before. Brilliant. Good videos. But the eyebrows, one thing about the eyebrows. Not judge the book by the cover or anything, but the whole makeup. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. Cover the eyebrows with the I remember they play.
One of my favourite filmmakers. Not for Euphoria, but for his second feature, Assassination Nation. Feels good to get that off my chest. He put trans, queer, black, female characters front and centre in a film that explored the constant objectification and eager bias against young women.
Wait, I feel like I miss. I go back. I feel like I missed a good part of that video. Yeah, I go back so I can.
One of my favourite filmmakers.
Okay.
Not for Euphoria, but for his second feature,
Assassination
in the
Euphoria.
Nation. Feels good to get that off my chest. He put trans, queer, black, female characters front and centre in a film that explored the constant objectification and eager bias against young women. So why is it that now Levinson has such a terrible reputation as a writer who delights in degrading these same groups? Is Sam Levinson really the monster modern culture wants him to be? Or have we missed the point?
Alright, give you a history. Okay, see there she answer it right now. I said that. Look, Manta ping there. Yeah, did say that. Oh shit, let me just press. Go back. Okay.
A very quick summary of his background. Sam Levinson is a 41-year-old writer-director, son to the Oscar-winning director of Rain Man, Barry Levinson, and to television producer Diana Rhodes. So he is in fact a Nepo baby, and he worked on multiple projects with his father whilst coming up in the industry. His directorial debut was 2001's Another Happy Day. Generally considered a promising debut, the film examines the relationship between an estranged mother and son.
Is that Ezra Miller that?
Particularly
Hey, Ezra Miller, the Flash.
Film examines the relationship between an estranged mother and son, but it wasn't particularly notable. I came across the writer-director in 2018 when his second feature, Assassination Nation, was released, and I ate this film up. It was a campy, sexy, scary film all about teenage girls fighting against sexism and persecution. It wasn't a big hit commercially, but for Tumblr girlies myself, it made a mark. Then came Euphoria, and with it, mass praise, but then a middling reception to Malcolm and Marie, and then the disaster that was The Idol. And
The Idol? That show was definitely The Weeknd. Yeah, that was definitely The Weeknd show for real. The Idol. A couple good songs. The song them good or me just sing the song sometime. That is a good song. Who knows?
Erotic thriller Deep Water. And finally, last month, the conclusion to his once beloved teen drama was met with resentment.
Never get into that. Never get into the Euphoria and everything. Them, I don't know. It was a thing, much like 2 episodes. Never watched it again after that.
On all fronts. The widely held opinion of Levinson's legacy now is that he is blatantly sexist, far from the feminist filmmaker he once promised to be. There are other things here I could cover about production scandals and his visual style, but the focus of this series is the writing of women, how various men in Hollywood and beyond present their female characters on screen, and the implications of that. So to understand
Oh,
Levinson,
so me know me stop a video, but it's like this is a series and me just a jump in panda episode here. Oh, interesting. If me like that video, it'll turn out good so far. If me like it that much, then probably go back in a series and look on some other videos. Remember, don't think.
have to look at his work chronologically and see how the writing changed. But before we get there, let's talk about euphoria of another kind, with thanks to this week's sponsor, Bellessa. Water brand threatening suction to fit so for synergy, the range of products with
Oh
their
my
next
god.
my film.
Okay.
Levinson
Definitely I
began
get
writing
paid.
Assassination Nation on the brink of fatherhood as a response to America's changing political landscape.
Wait. You see now, too much big words one time. Me don't know where she just said a while ago. Wait, we're gonna bring that back.
Levinson began writing Assassination Nation on the brink of fatherhood as a response to America's changing political landscape leading up to the 2016 election. In his words, he was responding to a very specific terror. The idea that I was bringing a kid into the world, specifically a country, that was outwardly celebrating.
Alright, stop. This just remind me of something. So, when today me finish read Batman Year One. And Jim Gordon in that book, him did have the same battle dog, like him a say. Like him feel a way if you bring up a pitney. Yeah, him wife pregnant, right? So him did feel a way say, yo, or him fi have a pitney in a Gotham City of all city, or him fi bring a child in this world, yeah. Crazy. What else? Anything else? Yeah, but that him did that thing just like with that money, I think. What a coincidence, right? I read it to them, finish it after the good read. It's a good book. But anything else? Yeah, Gotham City kinda crazy, and would I feel away if me have opinion of Gotham City too.
Aggression and violence and vitriol and mob mentality. Set in the town of Salem, very subtle, the gist of the film is that people's online info starts getting leaked on 4chan of all places, which sets off a chain of finger-pointing, moralizing, and punishment. The four girls at the center of our story are Lily, Bex, Emma, and Sarah, who become suspects in the leak and are hunted down by the masked townspeople. I didn't recognize this as much when I was younger, seeing their rhetoric as exclusively empowering, but the girls have an authentically dichotomous relationship with feminism. They're shown as intelligent, not standing for sexist comments from male peers and authorities, sharing feminist ideas with the audience, while also being girly and sexy, partying, making pussy art, and sending nudes. And importantly, they're not morally flawless, with main character Lily
First I hear that one day. We're not gonna skip past it. What kind of art? Alright, we're gonna skip past it.
On her boyfriend. They feel like real girls navigating femininity and desire.
No, me feel like if me Google that, then I gonna see something like, whoa. So I'm not ever gonna Google it. You know, I'm not gonna Google it and search that up like crazy.
And I think they successfully represent the mainstream ideals and contradictions of 2010's feminism. But in a lot of ways, the film is ahead of its time. Some of the final scenes practically mirror the 2021 insurrection. The film featured a trans woman in a leading role, which, despite trans people existing in every culture since the dawn of time, is still remarkably uncommon. It was reasonably racially diverse too, at least compared to films that aren't. All in all, it was very much a precursor to Euphoria, and it feels largely on the side of its female antagonists. Although the lead, Lily, played by the mammothly underrated Odessa Young, does give me pause. She's a petite woman depicted in frilly, skimpy pink clothing who sends nudes, sleeps with an older man, and argues that men objectify her. Mama has complex points.
Yeah, it's not like she create her own problems. Never watch the show. I just said based on her description a while ago, yeah. It's not like she created her own problems.
The decision to present her as a sort of sexy baby playing off of male desire for youth and naivety, the decision to centralize this provocative dichotomy, of course leads to some objectifying sequences in the film. The camera captures her as she captures nudes for the mysterious daddy. A bloody assault scene feels a little too Tumblr-primed and aestheticized. As a punchy internet-coded film, Assassination Nation aestheticizes violence throughout.
Assassination Nation, that sounds like one anime.
Hanging scene. But to quote directly from Nicole Veneato's essay on the film, to make up for the female perspective he lacked, Levinson turned to the internet and plugged into the discourse of young, politically conscious teens. But Levinson did not stop there. Throughout the film's production process, he had ongoing discussions and email exchanges with his female leads asking for their input, feelings, and concerns about the script and storyline. All in all, Assassination Nation is an empathetic film begging us to be less harsh on each other, a message we should all hear. Still to this day, nuance is rarely applied where needed, but do put a pin in this message. Because the notion that we should all empathize with each other, including the oppressed, having sympathy for their oppressors in order to keep harmony in society, is a viewpoint that can give way to slightly more radical views. Euphoria, an adaptation of the Israeli TV show of the same name, premiered on HBO in June 2019 and quickly became a cultural phenomenon, averaging 5.6 million viewers per episode and receiving plenty of positive critical reviews. While it was sex-heavy and depicted a lifestyle more akin to adults than teens, dressing for
could I get that from the 2 episodes when we watch? Yeah, could I really get that type of show for real?
High memes, young people felt that it did capture their Gen Z world, a rare show that got phones right, fashion right, language right, right, attitudes right. Certainly as a 23-year-old at the time, it felt reflective of my life. And like Skins for millennials, it was both authentic and aspirational. On the purpose of the show, Levinson expressed, "The overall through line is I've always been really interested in the fringes of the mainstream, things that have a certain dangerous quality that might be mythic. Euphoria was an opportunity to explore the experiences of the kinds of teens that wouldn't be front of center in Dawson's Creek or Gossip Girl." One fringe aspect of Euphoria was the explicit exploration of drug use, with Zendaya's somewhat gender-neutral Rue playing a self-insert for Levinson, who had struggled with drug addiction in his teenage years. It's arguably the most successful aspect of Levinson's writing, expressing the thought processes, familial complications, and yearnings of a young addict. All of Rue's pain so accurately expressed in manic ramblings and arguments with her mother. This is Sam Levinson's
guys. Did I miss one video about Zendaya, dog? It wasn't a bad video, but it was a video of this girl, and she had react, well, not really kinda, but in the video, I don't know that this girl, she talk about Zendaya, and she say, how did Zendaya, this colored girl from wherever Zendaya come from? And then the other girl say, what? Wait just say? Like the other girl react to your video, say, what? Wait just say colored girl? Like that just sound weird, don't? Like look on, like in a 2026, yeah, you look on a mixed person or even a black person or not even, and say colored. It just so weird. And what does that have to do with the video? Nothing. So I can't.
It's a story he knows how to tell. Like Assassination Nation, the trans experience was a central part of the show and explored well in Hunter Schafer's Jules. Her story wasn't about transition. It wasn't about other people responding to her gender. In fact, all of that was easily tied up in a 10-minute intro. Instead, we got a multi-layered story that gave significant weight to the complicated relationship Jules had with her femininity and being loved. Her story did fall into the trope of sexualizing trans women with the Grindr hookup stuff, but given the amount of time we spent with Jules, audiences got to experience her as a whole person. I think the character's central presence is something Levinson deserves praise for, but it is notable that the writing of Jules was at its best when Hunter Schafer was allowed to step in and pen an entire episode herself. While no other cast cast members took on writing for the show, the cast have explained that Levinson listened to them and adapted their characters over the course of the first season. I will note though, because we love a caveat, that more recently Alexa Demi expressed to Hollywood Reporter that she still performed nudity and storylines she was uncomfortable with, i.e. adapting to Levinson's vision of teen girlhood, because she knew she otherwise wouldn't be cast. The writing of
That's
Nate
not
and
nice.
Rue is also a high point of the show, exploring alt facets of queerness. An asexual masculine lesbian, a teenage boy breaking under the weight of compulsory heteronormativity. They are so much more specific than the hollow gay tropes Hollywood had been peddling out for years. So Euphoria was undoubtedly saucy, surreal, and extreme, but like Assassination Nation, it had complex perspectives to offer, shaped behind the scenes by many people. However, one of those people was intentionally left out of the conversation on Euphoria's release. It is no secret now that photographer Petra Collins conceptualized Euphoria as we know it. According to Collins, Levinson approached her explaining he had begun work on Euphoria basing his vision and characters on her photos, and asked her to join the project as director, which is why the show featured several Collins collaborators like Schaefer and Barbie Ferreira. Collins claimed she worked for 5 months unpaid before being booted from the project while it was in pre-production, with HBO citing her age as an issue. A year later, advertising material for the show popped up and she discovered her distinct aesthetic had still been used despite her removal. The girl world she had spent a decade building now being used by a man who would walk away with all the credit. Which makes it hard to say what specific elements of Euphoria Levinson truly deserves to be lauded for. So much of what made the show special came down to Petra Collins' unique visions of teen girlhood, aesthetically and emotionally.
The colors
and that
real
became
and the light
more evident
and thing.
as Levinson's career progressed. There are so many essays about the idol, so I'm going to avoid relaying the content specifics.
Hey, you know
But
I'm
the
spoil
elevator
it?
pitch
Oh no,
is
I'm
a
not
pop
spoiling.
star
I'm not
played by
spoiling.
Nepo Slaby Lily Rose Depp, who becomes enamored with a pseudo-cult leader played by Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd. My soulmate, L Literacy. L Literacy has a brilliant video on the male genius, which looks at this self-appointed stance many male filmmakers lean into. Due to being the credited writer and director of every episode of the hit that was Euphoria, it appears Levinson developed this same belief in himself, which in the absence of Petra Collins' base material proved
So he was like, oh, you know, the arts and the ten. So probably like him head swell basically. Then feel like, oh, I'm so creative. Da 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 da. Like so much things are good, and probably them not take the talk and then them stuck in like a one way how them do things, and then it just become big and bitter. And what me a talk about?
Guided. And while not identical, The Idol has an equally insidious behind-the-scenes story of a female director being shafted from the show. This time, it was Amy Seimetz, who was hired by HBO to direct The Idol based on Levinson's early scripts. And Levinson and Tesfaye both acted as executive producers on the show, which effectively means contributing money and being rewarded with a reasonable degree of power. Control. When Seimetz's contributions began diverting from Levinson's vision, he had her removed and stepped in to direct himself. According to production crew, many of whom spoke to Rolling Stone in an expose, Levinson's initial unfinished scripts promised a nuanced story of female exploitation, but he seemingly stepped up the amount of disturbing sexual content in response to his frustrations with the production. There is no named source for this, but Deadline reported that Tesfaye had said the show
I
was
watch a
long
video
too much.
about that, about what it name about the what they call it? Like the one bag of sex in them in the show. I watch a video about that.
Into a quote-unquote female perspective. Crazy stuff. Speaking with Roundtree, another anonymous source from the Idol's production team said, "I went into the Idol thinking that this might be an interesting collaboration, but I left it pretty convinced that Levinson is not quite collaborative." So with Levinson's success putting him in an executive position, it's clear his attitude has shifted. The female perspective
me did it right. Me did pause no. Me did it right. Them heads swell. Or them feel like them bigger and them can't take no talk. Me did it right.
Performers no longer of interest. High off the glow of euphoria, he sees himself as a genius whose ideas are always superior, engaging in groupthink only with Tesfaye, who also has a writing credit. Levinson's final version of The Idol was met with extremely negative reviews. The Guardian called it one of the worst programs ever. Variety labelled it a sordid male fantasy. What was supposed to be a story about a woman exposed to the dangers of the pop machine
them just
became one about a pop star who takes pleasure in being exploited. In The Idol, the runtime is dedicated to showing the act of abuse against the main character Jocelyn,
and then
not much else.
Then
He
check it out about the
certainly
end.
doesn't give time to Jocelyn's emotional responses to these acts,
Probably not.
other than Joker smiling into mirrors and crying while makeup smears down her cheeks. No indication of what she's ever thinking, just contradictory imagery to make us think, whoa, she's damaged. And allegedly, some of the written scenes that didn't make it into the final cut featured Jocelyn gleefully asking to be beaten and begging to be raped. And sure, depiction doesn't equal endorsement, yada yada. But what does depiction equal when it has nothing to say? It's images for images' sake. Levinson and Tesfaye relish in their creation because they personally find these images titillating. And there's nothing wrong with finding taboo things alluring, but that doesn't mean we have to pretend something like The Idol has value beyond that. Saying it like it is only an insult to a director who thinks he's making something more meaningful. With Levinson making various comments about the influence of pornography on young people, the pressure the world puts on pop stars, and people underestimating sexual women, he seems to think he is. But critics and audiences called his bluff on the absolute lack of heart, character, and purpose.
In The Idol.
And rather than listen to the feedback, he doubled down in his next big adventure.
That's the word, God complex.
Euphoria Season 3. I don't know why I'm smiling while I'm saying this. That's like the worst news I've ever heard. I understand at this point, this is probably the 900th video on this show that has been posted to YouTube. So again, I'm not going to repeat too much of the discourse specifically around the male gaze and the degradation of Cassie. But Euphoria Season 3 was so bad that there is plenty more to discuss. Picking up after a 5-year jump, the final season supposedly focuses, according to Levinson, on the attention economy and how it has shaped these characters, which is most visible in Cassie's influencer and OnlyFans storyline. The writing is extremely weak, fully separating our characters into separate storylines. Euphoria thrived.
Let me just listen, cause me really don't know nothing about Euphoria and all like that.
Interpersonal relationships. But now the focus is all on the action beats. Who's taking money where, which drugs are spiked, how much money Cassie can accrue in a short window. No one is in denial that the show always heavily featured sex and drugs, but it also had friendship, love, backstabbing, and deceit among our main crew. And as mentioned earlier, it had nuanced characters we could see ourselves in and therefore cared about. Who is seeing themselves in Cassie Howard? In season 3, these characters are no longer motivated by things we, the audience, see or by emotions we understand. Levinson just writes whatever situations make for action sequences or exploitative imagery. The once emotionally rich Cassie just wants money. Seemingly asexual drug addict Rue is jazzed to work at a strip club dealing narcotics. A Jules, who we watched navigate the tension between her femininity and her worth, is a clothes hanger for designer dresses. The disappearance of Jules is one of my biggest gripes. This flawed, honest, and present trans person is gone. Her repetitive scenes have zero effect on the plot, and without her, the show doesn't feel like Euphoria. Rules and Jew. Rules and Jew. Jules and Rue were the lifeblood. I know there are rumours of rifts between major cast members that may have affected their willingness to work together, but given that the storylines were all so separate anyway, there were so many potential stories to explore for Jules. We could have had Rue and Jules in the streets of New York falling in love again, Jules unaware of what Rue is going through. We could have had Jules' tape leak online, allowing her to confront her naive teenage decisions. We could have had her realize that what she really wanted now she has her daddy in a penthouse was to embrace the love of her own dad.
Hey,
but
what's that?
instead,
Me hear that. Hey.
house was to embrace the love
Something just dropped a while ago. When you hear that, something just dropped.
of her own dad. But instead, she had less than 25 minutes of screen time, almost all contained to that lifeless penthouse. The changes made to Nate's character are also disastrous. He's just like not gay anymore, which was unquestionably the most interesting thing about him. And putting away these needed queer narratives, we pick up with tired heteronormative narratives that are already pervasive in modern media. Including Kat, who doesn't feature in this season, every main character aside from Lexi is a sex worker at some point. Bro. And I don't have issues with sex work. I think it is a normal and valuable job, a research for disabled people, single people, and people with specific preferences. A job that allows people to support themselves with their skills, whatever those skills may be. Although I do recognize, as a commenter kindly pointed out in one of my previous videos, that the empowerment narrative often sold with modern sex work doesn't hold strong for many disabled, queer, and POC people who aren't as protected in the industry as white women. Anyway, this could have been an interesting premise about how different kinds of women from different backgrounds find avenues to sex work, but that was never the intent of this show. Despite his claims that he's exposing modern America under the influence of porn, it's a Breaking Bad style crime drama accessorized with the industry. I found it extremely illuminating that new character Alamo Brown's backstory hinges on a gold-digging mother, a trope I discuss at length in my Hollywood hooker essay. He could have had any origin, but Levinson finds that a man's character being corrupted by a slutty woman to be the most valuable use of his screenplay. And under his total control, we have endless scenes of legs spreading in strip clubs and Cassie breasts in close-up, dressed as a baby or a puppy or a housewife. As with The Idol, the imagery has minimal separation from...
Oh my god, YouTube probably shared that video.
And I direct you to my friend Diana's video if you want more discussion on the visual side of these depictions. I have to draw attention here to Sean Baker, director of Honora and the Florida Project, whose filmography solely focuses on sex workers. While much of the material being handled is similar, Baker's work is rarely considered offensive, and he's viewed positively by a lot of people in the industry because he works with sex workers as consultants throughout the entire filmmaking process. As far as I could find, no sex workers were consulted in the creation of Euphoria. If they had been, it would be the easiest thing in the world to say we worked with XYZ organization or this specific activist. So if they haven't said that, I think we can fairly assume they didn't. And without this consultation, a totally normal part of filmmaking, Levinson isn't telling a story, he's making one up. Even Chloe Cherry, a former adult actress who plays Faye, has stated she was never consulted. Although it is worth noting, she has also said she's tired of being treated as a default spokesperson on the matter. By the by, Levinson found and hired her because he'd seen her work online. And I'm far from the first person to...
No, you didn't skip over that. You didn't skip over that. Me hear what you just say. Him see our work. Him see our work. What? Our work, huh? Our work. Yeah, man. You tell me say, him a beat it and say, no, man, she too good, man. Me have to hire her, man. She have to be in the next show. Definitely have put her in the next show. What? Oh, I guess she should, if she, that, at some point you just have to accept it and be proud that that probably are gonna be like the best case scenario. Cause that what a conversation they like when they like buy our OnlyFans or takes up our Instagram and say, yo, we just do a quick round and we just wanna say, yo, your performance. Like what was that conversation? Yeah, oh,
to point out how disturbing it is that as the least established and therefore least protected cast member, Cherry is constantly written into the most degrading scenes.
oh,
The amount of diarrhea Faye has in this season rivals even me. Watching shit get licked off her leg by a dog is not contributing anything emotionally.
that's the show. At that in the day, dog a lick shit off her.
This story. We are already aware of how horrific drug trafficking is because of the impact it's having on Rue's overall arc. In season 3, Levinson has decidedly taken on a new approach to his filmmaking. He doesn't want to elevate the voices and opinions of women, trans people, queer people, and sex workers he
Him
writes
just
about
make poor now,
perhaps
literally.
because he now views them
You see, man,
as
I
part
make it.
of the problem. I know that's a fairly strong claim, but this quote from Esquire is extremely revealing in my opinion. On the final season, he said, "I thought if I've got an audience that's paying attention and sort of captivated by it, I want to tell a story about God and family and America and the importance of believing in something greater than yourself, which I think is the antidote to the narcissism of social media and technology."
Yeah, him just a chat. Right now, him just a chat. Them feel like, oh, them reach enlightenment cause they make two movie and then they get this like success. You know, all of this quote unquote art where them never did I get praise for back in the day, them just say, oh, me did right all along. May I see a new thing. Da 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 da. Him just a chat. Him just a chat. All of this chattings. Just a chat.
So, if traditional American values, as he cites, are the cure, it seems he thinks all the things he once explored and had an eagerness to
Traditional
elevate.
American values. What does that even mean? What kind of tradition America have? What?
Are the illness. Bar Lexi, wholly in her straight white cisness, all our original characters are punished in this final season. And that punishment can't help but feel intentional when
Not
they
traditional.
represent
Like what kind of values? Like what are the traditional values? America.
the very opposite of God, family, and America. Levinson's suggested antidote, even though it was for being those very same people that he once loved and tended to them. Which brings me to my final point.
Wait, before
The
you say
issue
a final point. So it's like him come full circle in the wrong way because first him like, yo, me I highlight them people, me I put them people up on a stage, me I like showing where them people I think that. And then it just devolve into porn and like basically softcore porn, like him do the same thing them when him did that push up the character them for highlight and say, yo, that's not this and this and that, and then people here can be this and that too, and this and that. When you get me, I say this and that. But yeah, so him just gone to like, oh, he might do the same thing like when him did a critique. May I get some here?
issue is not that Levinson is a man. It's that the power that he has accrued means he doesn't have to answer to anyone or consider anyone else's perspective. The show is successful enough that he doesn't have to make sure women, let alone trans and queer women, are comfortable with it. And this freedom exposed his own desire to degrade and subjugate women. And it's not to say that he never cared about those groups. I think his early work shows that he truly did, or at least felt he did at the time. But the decrease in the quality of his work is reflected in a shift of viewpoint. Great art often comes from people who have nothing to lose because they are already at the bottom of society's ladder. But often when we climb that ladder and find ourselves at the top, we lose that real need to express what is suppressed.
me need to reach up at the top, like, right now. Yeah, me can lose. Me can lose some of the creativity and get me up at the top. By hard work and dedication. I like sweets.
Lose the ability to
Just
make
saying.
great art. Levinson's self-appointed purpose to challenge an ugly, self-cannibalizing world hasn't changed. But the world he said he feared way back in 2016 is now the one he has a comfortable home in. He has the power, the money, all the white and male privileges he's ever had. And looking down from that height, the young queer people look like the rabble causing all the political trouble and social conflict.
Okay.
Not the people being
Basically, let me
harmed
just say
by
let go.
it. Conservatives will have you believe the fringe has changed, believing they are oppressed. And maybe Levinson does too, which is why he put boobs, beer, and the Bible at the forefront of his opus. His latest work is reflective of a radicalization towards traditional values. In season 3's Dying American Dream, the only solitude is found in religion and guns, which pretty much tells you everything you need to know about his views at this point. So, no, Sam Levinson is not an inherently perverse, nasty monster who has never cared about women or written good ones. He is a case study of the corruption of success, showing us how people who build their careers, telling other people's stories he plucked from the fringes because he found they tantalized him, get to detach from those people, developing other harmful ideas about them, and cruelly remaining in a position to tell their stories even once radicalized against them. He is someone who believes his art has a purpose, indulging in the delusion of his own genius. But from the heights of Hollywood, he can't see what he has truly become. And I surely don't want to see whatever he does next. I just realized I completely forgot to do an outro. So yeah, you can find me pretty much all over the internet at Rachel Lydia B. You can find me on Patreon, Instagram, Letterboxd.
Okay. So that was the video. Yeah. Do I know who Sam Levinson is now? Kinda. Did I get the story? Yes, I did. Great video. That was the video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.